Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Empowered Humans Project. My name is Julia. I'm an empowerment coach, and I have decided to launch a project where I feature a different, inspiring, and motivational individual on my vlogs. And the purpose of this project, the Empowered Humans Project, is to bring healing both to ourselves by sharing our stories, as well as to others by hearing these stories. The people that are featured in the vlogs have all been through a large amount of trauma and have all come out on the other side. And today, I'm really excited to introduce my friend James Hill. He is a single father of 5 daughters. God bless you. He lives in Spring City, Pennsylvania, and he's a realtor with a broker's license. And he's in the process of writing 2 amazing books. And I'm really excited to hear all about your journey. So, hi, James.
Hi, Julia. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
So, James, let's get right into it. Tell me a little bit about your journey and what you've been through in the last couple of years, and kind of like what has led you to up to your transformational point.
Yeah, so in March of 2018, I got separated from my wife, and we have 4 children together. I have an older child from a previous relationship, and we just had a really rocky March, and a lot was going on, and there was a lot of issues, and so I left the house for about a month. The intention was to leave for a week, go to a hotel, and it ended up being a month long. Then I came back home in about April, and then I was removed from the house a little bit more forcefully this time, and that kind of really kicked in that I had to basically fight for my marriage at that point. And I didn't know how to, I didn't have the tools, and I wasn't sure what to do. And so it sent me in a spiral, for a couple of months, and I had a really bad 6 to 8 months until I could really get a grip on things and pull myself back into it.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that you went through that, number one. Judging from the way things are looking now, because you have an amazing social media presence, I have to tell you, your posts are so inspiring, and they're just very sweet and endearing. You're always posting pictures with your girls. You're always saying something so beautiful. So it seems like you've risen above all of this. And how did things progress from there, from that point on?
Yeah, I mean, it took a while. I went down. So right now I weigh about 173 pounds, and at my worst I was about 143. So I was about 30 pounds lighter, and I'm not a big guy to begin with. So it took its toll on me. It drained me. It took everything I had, not just the monetary things and the physical things. It took my health, to the point where I was, put in the hospital. They thought I was having a stroke, and it just really beat me up bad. And I just had to find, a basic way to get around all that. And part of the thing I tell people is, it's the direction that you're going in. It's not the size of the step that you're taking. Even the smallest step is in the right direction is positive, and it's getting you there. And I was taking steps sideways and backways and every other way but forward, and it was putting me in a really bad spot. So when I eventually figured out why and how to push forward and to get to the next phase, that's when I started to heal. And it took a while. It wasn't a quick process. I know we all want healing to be super fast, and I tell people there's 2 things about time. You either want it to slow down or do you want it to speed up. And in the beginning, I wanted everything to slow down because I was looking for a way to save my marriage and save my family and to try to get a grip what was going on. I was really caught off guard when my wife left, or had me leave and asked out of the marriage. It wasn't something I was expecting at all. We had what I thought was a very healthy, good marriage. So I didn't know what was going on, and it took a lot. So I wanted time to slow down. And then when you get to the point where you get angry and you go through all the motions and the healing process, then you want time to speed up because you just want to heal. And it doesn't do either of those two things. I mean, time just, it goes on as it does, and you have to find ways to live in that moment, the bad and the good. And I mean, when there's bad moments, you have to find ways to use that to fuel you to a healthier you. When times are good, you have to use that to hold on to and to teach other people how to benefit. And you just have to heal and you have to move forward. So the whole process is just going in the right direction, and we're not all ready at the same time.
I love that you say that. Being that I'm an empowerment coach, I work with a lot of clients that kind of come from, similar traumas, or just maybe similar situations. And everybody wants like the quick fix. Everybody wants to be healed within like a week. So I love that you're kind of like shining light on the fact that this process definitely takes a long time. It has for me as well. It's taken quite a while, but you do come out a lot stronger. And actually, in one of our conversations that you and I have had, you mentioned that you no longer see yourself as a victim, which I really love that, because a lot of people that go through things like this, be it a bitter divorce, or anything similar to this, they wind up feeling like the victim, like, oh, she took all my money. I came home to an empty apartment. Or, the females will say he was abusive, verbally, whatever the case might be. We all, and it's basically society that has us constantly feeling like we're victims no matter what. And I recall you saying that you've moved beyond that point. So how were you able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, all those things happen. I came home to an empty house. I mean, completely empty. Everything I had bought and saved for 40 some years was gone. My kids were gone. My pets were gone. Everything I had owned was gone. And it was hard. I was angry. I wanted to lash out. I did. I put myself in positions where I could have easily gotten in a lot of trouble, and that would have set me back even further. It was very difficult to hold that balance of trying to figure out how much was enough and how much wasn't. And I didn't have a good guide. I had good people around me. I had phenomenal people around me, but I wasn't always taking the advice. Good advice is advice we know that we just don't take. It's easier to give advice than it is to take advice. So for me, I just got to the point where I realized, looking at all the things that I felt that she was doing to me and that she had done to me was not helping me. It was keeping me stuck in place, and that wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want to be stuck in place. I wanted to be healed. I wanted to be better. I wanted to learn from this. So I decided to start sitting back and looking at myself and figuring out where I had failed, what I had done wrong, what things I could focus on, what was in my control and what was not in my control. And when I figured out what was in my control and what my faults were and my issues were, and I started to correct them, I started to heal. I just looked at it as, okay, it's easy to say she was angry and mean and took everything. But I never sat back and realized, but what did you do? And so I decided to take responsibility for my role in it. And once I figured out what my role was in this whole process and I corrected that, there was nothing she could do to me anymore. I mean, she could continue to fight and take, but she couldn't take, what I had done and what I had built since she left. I mean, that was on me, and I had to rebuild. I had to take care of myself and my kids and get a better game plan together, because I didn't want to keep spinning my wheels. I mean, I've been through the court system. I think I was in court in a year and a half, 36 times. I mean, it was a brutal divorce. There was a lot of moving parts in that. And I just realized, I was reading the courts and I realized the judges were doing the same things. They weren't looking at my situation. They weren't looking at me as a person and all I had dealt with and gone through. They were looking at what was right in front of them, and that was it. And so I had to become a better person, not just for myself, but for the court system and my kids, so that when I was in there, I was showing them I was trying. I wasn't showing them I was blaming. They didn't care about the blame. That wasn't doing any good. I had to take responsibility and say, look, I made mistakes, and now I'm moving forward, and that's all I want to do. And that made a huge difference in my life.
I really love that. I have so much respect for that. I find that that is just a little bit harder in a way for men to get to, simply because of just the way that society has, like just the way that society is, I should say. You know, there's all the egos and the testosterone and all this stuff in play. I find that just from my own experiences and just from what I see, whether it's on the media or just in general, clients and things like that. So that is really monumental, that you're able to like step back and say, you know, look at yourself and then say that there were definitely things that you could have maybe done better. And it really does take two in a sense. So I think that's definitely monumental. And so what was like the turning point for you, like knowing, because I know you said you were like really, you lost a lot of weight, you started having health problems, and that's something that'll definitely propel you into like, one day you just wake up and like, I can't live this life anymore. And that's something that I had went through as well. I went through like just a crazy nervous breakdown and then was just like, starting from tomorrow, I know that I cannot live my life this way anymore. Like I'm just starting clean slate. And that's exactly what I did. So like, what was that shift for you? What was like that turning point?
Yeah, it was a scary shift. I mean, it was at the end of November in 2018, the first year that she had left, and there was a lot going on with her, and it was hurting me, and it felt like I was being attacked on purpose, and I couldn't figure out why, and it was beating me down. I mean, I could never let on to them how bad I was hurt, but I was done. And I remember, I mean, I remember it perfectly. I was driving down the street a block away from my house. I just was so at peace and calm and smiling and happy, and I was happy and at peace because I was going to end my life, and I felt, I just felt really good about it. I mean, it's a scary feeling to feel like you're comfortable with that and that you're okay with it. And I came home that night. I had reached out to a friend of mine, and a cousin who has been very helpful. And I just asked them to pray with me. They were very religious. I was still trying to find myself in my religion, and they knew where they were. And so they said a prayer and they asked me if I was all right. And I said, yeah, I'm fine. It's just the holidays. I'm trying to get through things. And I didn't let on to anybody. I didn't tell anybody else. And I had a plan. I was going to wake up and I was going to do some videos for my kids. I was going to write some notes. I was going to drink a really good bottle of wine, and I was going to end my life. And I was convinced that that was the right decision. And I got up the next morning and it felt like something punched me in the chest. I mean, it was brutal. I just felt this very strange feeling like somebody was grabbing me and picking me up. And it's hard to describe. And it's actually, talking about my books, it's in one of my books, exactly how that felt. And it was weird. It was if God was telling me, hey, you know what? I know you're at your bottom. I know there's no lower you can go. This is it for you. And I'm not going to let this happen if I can help it. And I believe that. I believe that it took me hitting my very, very bottom, to realize that that was it. You either end it or you move forward. And a few months ago, before that happened, my mom saw me when I was in the hospital, and she was upset because she's just been a rock for me. And she said, you can either continue to kill yourself or you can get better for your kids. And it took several months for that to resonate with me. And when it did, it was November. So I was shocked that I had even thought about those things. It's never been a thought in my mind to ever think about it in my life. I'm a super strong person. I was a very ego person. You know, I just have a Napoleon complex. I don't know, 5'8" or 5'9", and so I've always been a little scrappy fighter. And you know, so I was born to fight. I mean, that's what I do. I love the, you know, I don't say I love to argue. It's the wrong way to say it, but I love a good challenge, whether it's talking, whether it's, you know, anything. And when somebody says I can't do something, I'm going to do it just to prove them wrong. And that was a spot where it was tough for me because I couldn't find a way around that. And for somebody like me, I was shocked that there was no way out of this. And so I was done. And yeah, it propelled me. It didn't propel me fast. It was a slow process, but that day told me, hang tight. I'm going to help you. And just trust me. And whatever that was, I mean, whatever your beliefs are in religion or whatever, something told me to hang tight, and it was going to help me through, and it did. Um, One thing I learned is when you try to manipulate karma, it doesn't go well. You can't help her. She's on her own journey, karma, and she knows what she's doing, and her timing's her timing. And every time I try to interfere with that, it backfired and things got in my way. When I learned to let go, she took over at her own pace, and everything that had happened to me bad was coming back in a much better way and in an improved way. And I realized maybe all of this happened for a reason. Maybe this wasn't the plan for me. Maybe there was a plan that involved me getting hurt and bring me back down to a better playing field. And maybe that's what I needed. So yeah, that was when I started to heal. And I could tell you it was about 3 months. I went down to North Carolina and I got a tattoo. It was one I always wanted. It was 15 hours of pain, and it was part of my healing process. I did something for me, and realizing that if you do this for you, you got to let this be part of your journey of healing. And I made those little goals. If you do this, it's part of your journey of healing. And every time I did that, I healed a little bit more, and it became a little bit easier to deal with things.
Thank you for sharing your story. I know it's not always easy for people because we're making ourselves really vulnerable and really putting ourselves out there.
Mhm.
And I think it's a beautiful thing that you're able to like share this. Now, you and I, and everybody who's going to be featured on the vlog has really been to rock bottom. Like we know what rock bottom looks like. And we've been able to somehow, rise above that. And so I've noticed in my journey that I'm now very, very big on like the power of manifestation. So I literally say, to all my clients, to everybody, that I'm in the process of manifesting my dream life. I am. So that's kind of another element of all of this, and being able to rise above is that little narrative that we have inside of our heads. And if we consistently continue to tell ourselves and those around us, it's going to be terrible, it's going to be horrible, this disease is coming, it's going to get us, it's like whatever the negativity and the negative narrative is, I find that the universe, you can call it God, the universe, the plan, whatever it is going to perpetuate whatever that inner voice that you have. That's what you're going to essentially attract. So again, we've been able to rise above, and I'm really grateful. I mean, I wake up like every morning now and I'm just happy and I'm grateful. And it really took a long time to get here. And I know you're nodding. I know you can resonate. You can relate to that. Now, what, if you can give some kind of advice to the people that might still be, stuck in these types of situations, going through the traumas perhaps right now, whether it's, dealing with a disease, or just being in a very unhappy marriage, being in a very unhappy relationship, having maybe just gotten out of a very, toxic relationship. There's so many different things going on right now, especially in the world that we're in with COVID and everything. And being single parents, there's a lot of struggles in that as well. Lots of things going on the legal side of things too, whether it's custody battles. Like what, like little tidbits and advice would you share with people that are currently going through this and like don't see a way out?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is deal with the pain. I mean, you can't push it away, unfortunately. There's a reason we're going through the pain. There's something. We don't just go through pain for no reason. It's a learning process. And what I tell people is deal with the pain. I mean, accept it. Unfortunately, let it change you. Let it, manipulate you. Let it build you to a stronger you. You're going to be surprised with the outcome. I can tell you right now, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, would I be sitting here talking to you about this and smiling and happy? I would have said, there's no way. I'm that guy that absolutely loved his wife. I loved my marriage. I loved my family. I would have never left my wife. I just was happy. Life was great for me. We had goals, we had dreams, we had plans. And when that got taken away from me, I just did not see a way to get through it. I mean, forget dating and everything else that came with that process afterwards. I just didn't see a way that I'd want to wake up in the morning and not have her next to me, not have my kids there to kiss goodnight. Some of the hardest parts was, I would hear phantoms in my house. I would hear the garage door open and think it was her coming home from work or being out with the kids. And it wasn't the garage door. It was my mind playing tricks on me. And, I woke up in the middle of the night and thought it was a bad dream. And I went over to give her a hug and say I had another bad dream, and she wasn't there. And I realized it was reality. And I went through that pain thinking that this sucks. There's not a single way out of this. And I was wrong. And, if you're going through things, you unfortunately have to deal with the steps. There are processes. There's anger, there's frustration, there's acceptance, there's denial, there's all these different steps. And you can't skip them. I mean, you have to take them, you have to deal with them, and you have to know that those steps are going to end. You may revisit a couple of them here and there. Anger is the one that I probably revisit the most, but it's a different anger. It's no longer an anger of, I can't believe you did this, I missed you. It's more of an anger of, we could have had our family together and we had these dreams and goals, and that kind of sucks for everybody, but it's an acceptance. I absolutely 100% accept that my marriage is done. I mean, I've been divorced for a year now. I accept it and I'm okay with it. I tell people all the time, I miss my marriage. I don't miss the person I was married to. I liked what I had. Listen, the person that I was married to is not the person I divorced. They were two different people in my mind. I'm going to be cautious and not throw her under the bus. A lot happened. It was unfortunate. I wrote about some of it, and that'll come out when and if that book gets published. But I'd rather not focus on the negative things. I'd rather focus on what it took to get me through. One thing I promised myself was that if I got through this, I would help other people get through it. And I have a lot of people that will reach out to me and just say, hey, listen, I'm going through a divorce, or I'm having a problem, somebody close to me is sick, or whatever it may be. What do I do? You're always so positive. And I tell them, listen, I wasn't always this positive. It took time. So understand, you're going to be in my position one day. You're going to look back 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now and go, that's what he was talking about. This is the healing that he's at from here to here. And he's telling me I'm going to get from here to here if I just allow the process to happen. And it does. The other thing is, you have to surround yourself with the right people. One lesson I learned going through this is you are going to lose friends over a divorce. You're absolutely going to lose them because you're going to call them every day, and all you're going to do is talk about poor you and how bad it is, and look what she's doing now, or look what he's doing now, and this is so unfortunate, and how could they do this and hurt me? And you want that positive influence from people. You want people to say, oh my gosh, she's terrible, or he's terrible, I can't believe it. And that didn't help me. What I needed was somebody to say, look, you got to focus on you. You got to worry, you can't change how she perceives you or how people are perceiving you based on what she's saying about you. What can you control? You can control you and how you look at yourself. And that was a lesson for me. I started to look at me and I started to say, what do you want out of the rest of your life? You're in your 40s. You have a lot of time left, hopefully, and you have a lot to give, and you work hard. And what do you want to do with that? And I realized I wanted to do more. I wanted to do well at my real estate again. I wanted to build my career back to where it was. I wanted to have my kids. I fought for 2.5 years to get 50-50. It sucks that a father has to do that, but I had to fight to be a dad. The system is slow. It's horrible. They don't care. And so I didn't give up. It cost me everything I owned. All my money it was gone because of that. And it's okay. It was okay. I don't mind starting over because I have my kids more now. But yeah, I mean, you have to get to the point where you say, what do I want? I want it to heal. Okay, well, I'm going to heal when the time comes. I want to write a book. I mean, that just hit me 3 months ago. I realized I think I want to write a book, and I think I can. And honestly, I can tell you, I don't know that I would have ever sat down and wrote a book if I stayed in my marriage. I mean, there's a positive coming out of this because I was kind of complacent. I came home from work, we hung out, we played with the kids, we went out on dates when we could, we talked about buying another property. We just kept going in that same, routine, which, by the way, I love that routine. That's what made me happy. But I just realized, okay, I'm going to focus and shift, and there's other things that'll make me happy. And now, I work, I write, I see my kids, I've met some phenomenal people, and I thought I would never meet anybody again. I don't mind being single. I really don't. That's another thing. I think we rush to look for relationships. Everybody wants to, I need somebody. I have to have somebody here. And I did that in the first couple of months. I went on dates and they were horrible because I was just so down and depressed and people could see it. And you know what? I didn't need anybody. I needed me. I don't need somebody to help me take care of the kids. I don't need somebody to help me cook. I don't need somebody to help me clean. Here's a great thing. If you had asked me 2.5 years ago, can you take care of 4 girls on your own half the time? The answer would have been no. I did raise my oldest daughter myself. I had full custody of her from the time she was 6, and that was tough. If you asked me to run this career and to raise 4 girls 50% of the time while doing laundry and cooking and cleaning and sweeping the house and putting their clothes away and doing their homework, and with COVID, homeschooling them and everything, I would have laughed and said, there's not even a possibility, but it is. And here's the thing. When you have to do something, you can do it. It's a matter of being put in that position. You can think all you want that you're not going to be able to, but when you don't have a choice, you find a way to make it work. I'm a good cook now. I figured out how to cook and I love it. The kids want things and I find different meals. When I have friends over, I find different things to cook. I did eggplant rollatini the other night. I mean, I would have never even thought about that until I started to look and said, I want to make this, and I figured out how to make it. The girls, there's 4 of them. They're different sizes. So I was doing all their laundry and spending hours looking at the tags and trying to figure it out. So I came up with a system. I got 4 laundry baskets, and each girl puts her clothes in there, and I do 1 laundry basket at a time. So when that set of clothes is done, I'm putting 1 kid's clothes away. So I found ways to make my life easier, and it's worked. I mean, I'm mom and dad at the house. You don't need somebody to fill your void. You really don't. You're going to feel that way. I can promise you're going to feel that way, but I can also promise you do not need somebody to fill that void. You're capable of doing it on your own. You just need time.
I love everything that you're saying. Definitely, I see a lot of this. I saw the same types of things within myself, and I see a lot of this in the coaching practice as well, where we definitely tend to use other people as a Band-Aid, and that is very short-lived. I tell all my clients about seeking that external validation from others. Yes, it'll feel great, but only for like 5 minutes. And then you're kind of left with yourself to pick up the pieces. And so, I'm all about, like, you have to be happy first internally. You have to make yourself happy. And for me, that took years and years and years and years and years to be able to, and I'm still like a work in progress, I always say. So I'm still kind of like working on that happiness, doing the self-care. So I'm still on my healing journey, and there's an entourage of people. And like you said, having positive people really, really tends to help a lot. So I 100% definitely think that people need to establish like an entourage of people that are supportive, truly supportive, and really there for them in every way. And I think that is important. And thank you so much for sharing your journey. If you can just briefly talk about the 2 books that you're writing and just give us like a little bit more information on when we can expect that to be coming out, what the books are about and so on.
Yeah, so the first one I wrote was called A Change in Season. And what that's about is it's basically, it started off being about my divorce and the process. I had what I call a Jerry Springer divorce. It was probably worse than anybody that's going to watch this has heard of. It was very bad, a lot of moving parts, a lot of craziness, things I would have never thought of possible happened. And so I sat down and I said, I want to write about it. And I thought it was going to be a lot harder to sit and write about it and relive all that. And it wasn't. It was therapeutic. It was healing. I realized writing that story that I had come so much further than I had thought. I knew I was pretty far in my journey, but I didn't know how far. So the book really talks about a lot. It talks about how I failed my marriage before it even started. The mistakes that I made because of the lessons I didn't learn from the past. My grandfather was married 72 years to the same woman, and one of the stories in the book is he builds a store for her at the bottom of his house because she just wanted a store and an outlet to do something, and she made no money on it. She would sell things to her friends, and she would pick things up at flea markets, and she didn't make anything. And I asked him about that one day, and he said it's her store, it's her thing. And I failed to find my wife's store. I didn't find a thing that really made her happy, even if it ended up costing me money and wasn't helping. It was helping in the long run. And that's one thing that I would tell everybody is, find that store in your person, find what they need. I look back on my mom who was divorced and went through a crazy life. I mean, she lost her daughter in a car accident. My sister passed away when she was 5, and she was on life support for 7 days. She fought and she didn't make it. And, there was lessons from that. One of the stories I tell in the book is my mom rocked in her room every night after she died, and my dad worked third shift. And one night my mom was rocking in the room, and she just started to beg and plead for relief. She was so distraught. She didn't want to do it anymore. It was painful and hurtful to her, and she was just out of it. And she said that this overwhelming feeling of love just grabbed her and made her feel like it was okay. And I said, what do you think it was? And she said, I think it was, Chrissy saying that she was okay, Mom, it's okay. It's time to move on, and it's okay. I'm okay. And you have other things to do. And I tie that into my book by saying my journey of waking up that morning when I was done, it was kind of my rocking chair. It was my moment of feeling something that I couldn't explain, just like my mother couldn't explain. So it started out going, in the direction of just basically my divorce. And then it kind of went into stories that led to who I was and perspective and missing things. And, a line that I like to tell people is it's the journey that defines us. It's not the destination. And too often we're looking at, I want to get to this point and that point and this point, but that's not what makes us who we are. I mean, we're all going to start at the same point. We're all going to end at the same point. It's everything that's in between. It's going to set us apart, and it's going to make us and build our character and who we are. So, so that book, that's a little tough one because that does get into the specifics of my divorce and how bad it was. And so there's some legal challenges there I need to discuss with an attorney to make sure that I'm not putting anybody in a bad spot. It's all based on facts, so it's a memoir. It's definitely a nonfiction. The second book, I decided to write only because the first one was 103,000 words, and it went really well, and it took me about a month and a half to write. And I tell people it took me 46 years because it's based on my life. But the second one I'm still writing, and I'm in between two titles in that one. One is When the Dandelions Sing, and the other title is A Letter to Ronnie. And it'll probably be When the Dandelions Sing because it just ended up speaking to me. And it's just about a little boy who, goes through life, trying to find out his identity and who he is. And, he has his love for his family, and there's a couple of things that hurt him in his life, and he has to deal with death and trying to figure out, why we die and how we die and what the process of that is. And he goes through this journey of discovering who he is and basically having to become a much stronger person because of it. So he wants to write a letter to himself at 8 years old. And he wants to write a letter, that he'll be able to read when he's older, so he understands what he was doing at 8. And he doesn't know how to address the letter. He doesn't know if he should address it to his name or his nickname and his full name, or how do you address it. And he puts so much pressure on himself to write this letter. And then later in life, he'll read the letter again, and he discovers, that life was much different than he thought it was, and that he had come a lot further than he thought. So that one, hopefully, it's almost done. It's about halfway done, maybe a little bit more than halfway done. I'm still writing that one, so the ending might change a little bit, but that one hopefully will be out. I'm either hoping to have a publisher pick it up by mid next year, and if I don't have a publisher pick it up by mid next year, I will just self-publish it myself and have it by the end of the year. So I would say I should have some good news on that one by somewhere between June and December of next year.
Very nice. And the first thing is that I want to say I'm sending a lot of positivity and a lot of healing, to your mother, because and thank you for sharing that as well. That is definitely a huge trauma and very devastating. And to anyone who's gone through anything like that, definitely, it's very hard to overcome.
Mhm.
And that puts you as the other child, having that puts you in a place of trauma as well, because you're kind of like forced to become an adult now and kind of like parent your parents. And interestingly enough, I went through the same process. I lost a sibling as well when I was little. And so just throughout the process of just therapy and everything else, I've kind of like uncovered that I had to become an adult at a very, very young age. And so that definitely is hard. It's hard. It's hard on a child. But I think we who have gone through things like that, or just any monumental trauma as a child, we tend to become more self-aware. So while we've made mistakes, we've gone down the wrong paths, like I'm happy to say that it's led me to become a lot more self-aware. And so I ask for people who have gone through things or are currently going through things to kind of take a step back and know that it's going to be okay and we can make it through whatever issues are going on in your life. I just want to send the message out that it's going to be okay. And that's kind of like the global message here. And thank you, James, so much for sharing your story and your entire journey with us. I'm honored and humbled to be able to work with you and bring some healing to our viewers, to the social media world, and to anybody else who might be watching this. If anybody wants to participate in this project and share your story in order to help others heal, please reach out to me. And thank you again, James, so much. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. Have a wonderful day, everybody. We're going to wrap up and try to enjoy the 45 minutes of sunlight that we have left to this day. I am sending you also a lot of positivity, James, a lot of healing. I'm sending you a lot of luck with your books. Can't wait for them to be out. I'll be posting some more information about that as things progress on your end. So hopefully people go out and read your story and get your books. And hopefully you guys found this to be inspirational and healing. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye, James. Thank you.
Thank you.